Dustin Wolf is officially a Calder Trophy nominee, making him the first goaltender in 4 years to be nominated.
You're Locked On Flames, your daily podcast on the Calgary Flames. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's episode of Locked On Flames. As always, I am your host, Jess Belmosto, and thank you so much for joining me. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off of your first purchase. Today, the good news just keeps on coming, right? Matt Coronado extension, and now Dustin Wolf is officially a Calder Trophy nominee, a finalist. It's just very exciting, and I thought today we would, take a look at the history of this award and goaltenders, and look at Wolf's season, as well as wrap up the show with just a little bit of draft lottery talk. Make sure you're subscribed to Locked On Flames wherever you get your podcasts, as well as YouTube. We are here for you Monday through Friday, 5 days a week, your team every day. And let's jump right into this, because what an incredible honor and feat it is to be nominated for this award. You have to be the best of the best to get here, and to be alongside, Macklin, Celebrini, and Lane Hutson. That is pretty impressive. And I just can't say enough good things about, Wolf and his performance this season. I think that, I'm glad the writers and kind of pulled their head out of the sand and said, oh my gosh, there's really something special in Wolf, regardless of, what market he plays in. I was not 100% confident that he would earn this nomination, because, let's be honest, we all know there's a little bit of East Coast bias in the NHL, but, Mitchkov did have a good season as well, and you never know which way the wind might blow here, and I will be the first person to admit that I'm biased when it comes to anything Flames related, but especially when it comes to Dustin Wolf. And just this season was so special for him and the team in general, and just to not finish as a bottom 5 team was pretty impressive. And we're going to talk more about, the team that was in front of him and whatnot coming up a little bit later. But Wolf stepped up into the starting goaltender role, right? Markstrom was traded, cleared room for him, and the expectations were low. Not that people necessarily, people did doubt him because of his size, and, he's tiny, he's not a big brick wall like these other goaltenders that we see. I always think of Ben Bishop being 6'6". That is a man. That is a beast in net. And obviously Wolf is smaller and very skinny. He doesn't fit the typical mold you see for starting NHL goaltenders. I am so impressed with his entire just pedigree. AHL goaltender of the year, not once but twice. AHL MVP, WHL goalie of the year, and MVP. He has worked so hard, and to come into this position was a tall task, and what an incredible transition to the pros it was. As I mentioned earlier, Wolf is the first goaltender since Nedeljkovic in 2021 to earn a Calder Trophy nomination, and the last goalie to win it was Steve Mason back in 2009. Do I think he could win it? Like I mentioned a minute or two ago, I'm biased. Of course, I think he could win this. I do feel like it may go in favor of Celebrini, because he did come in and put up 70-plus points. However, Lane Hutson also was part of a team that went to the playoffs, and he put up a lot of points. Dustin Wolf kept this team above water and almost carried them to the playoffs. And obviously, this voting takes place before the playoffs, so that doesn't necessarily, it doesn't get counted into this, but I just think that Wolf did an exceptionally good job this year in what was expected of him and the team that was in front of him. And, no one ever expects a smaller goaltender to have success, right? They immediately are written off the same way that he was overlooked at the draft. Like, it's not lost on any of us when discussing Dustin Wolf, and I'm sure it's nothing he hasn't heard before. And I just feel as if he got his team to where they were and did a darn good job. Exceeded every expectation. That's what it comes down to for me. I'm sorry if that's too simple, but he shattered those expectations and helped the team get over this hurdle of, bad hockey and that they were coming off of last season, and to step into this starting goaltender role and have immediate success is quite impressive. And again, considering who is playing in front of him. But coming up next, we're going to talk about Dustin Wolf's season and run through some statistics and really add some more emphasis on why Dustin Wolf should be the Calder Trophy winner. Have you ever checked your bank account and wondered, where on earth did all of my money go? Been there, done that. Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it is super easy to lose track. And that's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, it is a complete financial command center. You can track all of your accounts, investments, and spending all in one place, so you stop just managing your money and start building wealth. Managing your money with your partner is smoother and easier than ever. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without the stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off of your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNHL for half off of your first year. And I do want to take a quick second here to talk to you about one of my favorite apps, and that would, of course, be Game Time. The Stanley Cup playoffs are here, and if you've never been to an NHL playoff game, it is unlike anything else. The atmosphere, the intensity, the speed, the energy in the building is next level. And thanks to Game Time, getting in the door is easier and is more affordable than ever. Game Time is the fastest way to grab playoff tickets, even for those must-see matchups. Prices actually drop as puck drop gets closer, and with last-minute deals, you can save up to 60% off. Saving up to 60% off and buying last-minute tickets for sporting events sounds pretty neat, but it's not just exclusive to sports. You can get it for concerts, comedy, theater, and more. My favorite thing about the Game Time app is they're all-in pricing, so you can see the cost up front. That's what I used to go to 5 out of the 6 Flames games this season, and I wouldn't change a thing. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off of your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, That's code LOCKEDON NHL for $20 off. LOCKEDON NHL for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Thank you, everyone, for hanging out with me today on Locked On Flames, and make sure you're following me on Twitter and Blue Sky at Jess Belmosto. I cannot express enough and emphasize enough, write home about how important Dustin Wolf is to this organization. The fact that his rookie year was as successful as it was is impressive. And think back to where we were eight months ago, looking at the team on paper saying, okay, well, Mackenzie Weegar is going to have to do a lot of heavy lifting, but, Dustin Wolf will be in net. So it should be okay. Or, sure, there's a lot of young and inexperienced players, but it'll be good for Dustin Wolf to get the reps and battle through the adversity rather than have these high expectations for immediate success. And I understand it. I do. I remember looking at the roster myself and going, it feels like they're throwing Wolf, no pun intended, but to the Flames and just gonna let it happen. Nope. He is just that good. We might not have had a lot to be confident about, but he was confident between those pipes. He had 29 wins, 3 shutouts, a .910 save percentage, and a 2.64 goals against average. Just absolutely ridiculous, right? And he ended up having 11 goals saved above expected. Impressive. You don't really see double digits like that. You just don't. And especially with a young rookie goaltender, it's not expected of them to perform at that level. And I know I talked about it a lot this year, but Dustin Wolf is going to be the next coming of Connor Hellebuyck. Like, we're going to be so excited. We're going to have so much to look forward to. And then, Hellebuyck really kind of looked like playoff Jacob Markstrom against the Oilers in net for a majority of the series against St. Louis, but he held strong through double OT and the Jets won. But in all seriousness, we don't want to have to experience that, right? Dustin Wolf is a phenomenal goaltender, and looking at other players' performances and kind of comparing them might do more harm than good. And I just have to say that whatever Wolf does, it's not going to be an easy task. But his skill and just the caliber of goaltender he is makes it all look so stinkingly easy. And that's how you know someone is good at what they do. Because if they can make it look easy and like second nature, it's because they practice a lot at it. But for Wolf to come into this season, right, there was no clear defined role for him. Vladar had been a backup for 3 years at this point, and it's not really fair to expect your rookie goaltender to come in, take charge like that, and carry the workload that he did. Not easy. It's hard, especially when you are playing on an almost nightly basis. I give Wolf a lot of credit for coming in and being able to, use last season as this free trial sort of way to look at it, so he could learn what not to do, what he could do better, and what he excels at. And he did. He worked on that a lot over the over last off season, and I just think that he deserves all the credit. And I don't think it goes without saying, and I know his teammates all appreciate him, and hopefully they bought him something very nice and very expensive towards once the season ended. I'm hopeful that this isn't just like a flash in the pan sort of situation for Wolf. I do believe that he is more than capable of repeating this type of performance, as well as getting better than this. I do think a lot about the team on paper that was, going to be in front of him. You knew there was going to be very limited scoring. You knew that was going to be one of your biggest problems. Then you have a rookie goaltender in net with Rasmus Anderson, Mackenzie Weegar, Miramonov, Joel Hanley, Braden Pahal. I'm definitely forgetting some defensemen, but these players that aren't necessarily your top defensive guys, like outside of Mackenzie Weegar, and no one predicted Rasmus Anderson to have this kind of down year. But regardless, it paid off. Wolf has again exceeded every expectation, and I know that he turned down going to Worlds, and I know that there's conversation of Hellebuck maybe not even being the USA starter in Milan next year for the Olympics. But could you see a world where it's Jake Ottinger and maybe Dustin Wolf? I mean, I'm assuming Jeremy Swayman obviously gets a solid look at too, but I wouldn't be shocked. I really wouldn't. And coming up next, we are going to wrap up the show with some draft lottery conversations, because my God, why can't we ever have anything nice here on Locked On Flames? If you are running your business, you should absolutely be checking out Upwork. Scaling your business requires the right expertise at the right time. With Upwork, you can find specialized freelancers in marketing, developing, designers, and more. Experts ready to help you take your business to the next level. Upwork gives businesses flexibility by connecting them with top freelance talent across multiple industries, including IT, AI, web development, and marketing. Whether you need extra hands for a project or a long-term partner, Upwork makes hiring simple and affordable. If you need help with a marketing campaign, Upwork can connect you with a freelance expert who delivered incredible results. Visit Upwork.com right now and post your job for free. That's UPWORK.com. That's Upwork.com to connect with top talent and grow your business each day. Thank you, everyone, for hanging out with me today on Locked On Flames. Make sure you're following me on Twitter at Just Belmosto, and you're subscribed to the show wherever you get your podcasts, as well as YouTube. We're here for you Monday through Friday, 5 days a week, your team every day. And the draft lottery was this evening as well, and kind of disappointing, I would say. I mean, we knew that the Flames were likely going to pick 16th. It the draft pick that is going to Montreal is the 16th overall pick, and that was a top 10 pick, or top 10 protected pick. So had the Flames even drawn a 9, that would have been fine. However, that first pick is going to Montreal to round out the Sean Monahan trade. And then we have New Jersey's pick at 18, thanks to the Jacob Markstrom trade. Obviously you wish that the team finishes a little worse so you can grab a decent draft pick, but 18 it is. It's not the first time the Flames have been there. And honestly, I find it super, super funny that the Islanders won the draft lottery, and then they're just a very boring team. They fire Lou Lamoriello. They seemingly get the All-Star game, and then it gets canceled, and all of a sudden things start going the Islanders' way, and it makes you think. I'm not saying anything, but no, I'm just kidding. But of course, you have to think about everyone else and just, the kind of situation their team's in. I look at the Flames. How on earth are the Flames sticking in purgatory while the Islanders work on crawling their way out? Or how many teams played not so great and their draft pick selection doesn't necessarily reflect that. I think of Utah, and I'm genuinely upset about this, but Utah is picking 4th. They have been in the league for 1 full season, 2 draft cycles now, and have already beat the Flames highest, or tied with the Flames for their highest draft pick. The Flames obviously selected Sam Bennett at 4, and that's their only fourth overall pick. They got Tkachuk at 6th. It is very disappointing and just feels very, very discouraging, and just the fact that the rebuild should definitely be a little bit further along than it is. But that will do it for me here on today's episode of Locked On Flames. Thank you all so much for joining me. I hope you have a fantastic evening and enjoy the nice weather, hopefully where you are. Make sure you subscribe to Locked On Flames wherever you get your podcasts, as well as YouTube. We are here for you Monday through Friday, 5 days a week. Your Calgary Flames every day.